Boldwood presents Wish You Were Here, written by Alex Brown and read by Corin Cass. There are all kinds of love in this world, but never the same love twice. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Prologue. New York City, USA, 2011. Lifting the crystal glass to her lips, she lingered as the champagne bubbles teased and tingled on her tongue before turning to her husband to toast their wedding anniversary. 10 years since that day. It had been an intimate ceremony with close friends in a clifftop church on the breathtakingly beautiful Italian island of Capri. And they were still so deeply in love today. To me, she raised one eyebrow and smiled at him as they tapped their glasses together. For having the good fortune to meet you all those years ago. I know it's a cliché, my darling, but our love has truly changed my life. Gazing at him, she admired his thick, messy blonde hair brushed back from his kind face, the tall, athletic physique and still so incredibly handsome, as reminiscent of a classic Hollywood movie star as he'd been on the day she had first set eyes on him.
And loving you has changed my life too. So here's to us. To 10 wonderful years together. And to 10 more, my love.
He smiled right back, his sparkling denim blue eyes creasing at the corners as his tender gaze met hers. And the rest, she said, in faux outrage. We are not that old, and if our energetic lovemaking this morning was anything to go by, then I reckon we both have plenty of life left in us yet. I'm very much looking forward to growing old together.
Well, when you put it like that.
He lifted one eyebrow.
Although, I do regret us not getting together sooner, so we could have even more time together.
There's no point in regrets, my darling. Plus, I think we have stayed the course precisely for this reason. That we were older and wiser when we started our relationship. Each of us not prepared to put up with shoddy behaviour as I certainly did in the past, she said, referring to the 2 disastrous marriages she had endured before falling in love with him and finding her happy ever after.
But for me it was more a case of not ever feeling ready to commit until I met you and that all changed.
He nodded.
I guess I grew up at last and realized I needed to make a proper effort if I wanted to build a good life with you. Although you make it so easy to do, my darling.
Well, they do say that when something is easy, then it's meant to be, she told him.
They sure do. I'm so proud of us and all that we have navigated together. I love our life and having my best friend by my side. I love surprising you with wonderful experiences such as this, too.
He paused to point across the Hudson River towards the shoreline, the lights from the Manhattan skyscrapers twinkling like jewels in the moonlit sky.
And I promise never to stop surprising you.
Here's to more of it all. More surprises, more laughing, more dancing, more loving.
Let's dance to that.
Gently taking the champagne glass from her hand and placing it with his on the table set up on the deck of the yacht for their celebration picnic, he moved in closer and circled a tanned, muscular arm around her waist. She placed one hand on his shoulder and clasped his other hand in hers. Their fingers entwined, sending a familiar flood of fire surging through her body, of enduring love mingled with desire. Still the same sensation she'd felt the first time they'd danced together, all those years ago. From his first touch, it had been electrifying, a trillion tiny firecrackers exploding deep within her. They met at the Cannes Film Festival in 1999, and, like a scene from one of the movies they had watched earlier, their eyes locked before he made his way through the party crowd towards her. Incredulous at seeing her again, he had never forgotten her mesmerizing audition to be a Bond girl back in the 70s, when they were both in their 20s and he was first starting his career as a movie casting director. She had worn a cream silk dress, that had clung to her curves and swished around her thighs to accentuate her incredibly long and toned legs. He had apologised, of course, for not casting her all that time ago, the decision taken out of his hands by the film's producer, and she had forgiven him as they moved together in time to the music, before running to his sports car to race back to her hotel suite, where they made exquisite love all night long. They had married 2 years later, both in their 40s, and both very appreciative to have finally met the one in midlife. It was extraordinary how their infatuation for each other, both physically and spiritually, had lasted such a long time and hadn't petered out as it had in their previous relationships. They just got each other. Always had. Both of them enjoying passionate debates on just about every topic there was, and often late into the night, when the conversation would then turn to lovemaking. They laughed together too, and danced daily, their bond of joy and spontaneity special and the secret ingredient to their successful marriage. And right here, on the deck of the yacht, their bodies swayed and twirled in time to the music once again. A velvet-voiced melody drifting from the Bluetooth speaker at the helm, floating through the warm evening air. A shaft of pearlescent moonlight shimmering on the water to form a frame for their special anniversary moment.
How wonderful life is,
he sang along, his deep American accent as smooth and warm as honey over peach pie as he let go of her hand to move his fingers to the nape of her neck. His lips hot on hers as they kissed and laughed and swayed together some more, just reveling in and cherishing their love for one another. "While you're in the world," she breathed, tilting her head back from his embrace, lingering on the lyrics of the beautifully soulful song as she looped her fingers through his, locking their love in this perfect moment forevermore. Chapter 1. Blackheath, London, present day. Merriman's Travel, good afternoon. How may I help you? Diana Merriman, or Deedee, as everyone called her, picked up the phone on her desk and crossed the fingers of her free hand, inwardly willing the caller to ask her about exciting holidays to the Maldives or Mexico, or how about Mauritius? Images of crystal-clear seawater lapping hypnotically came to mind. Turtles pootling across golden sands at sunrise, or a cocktail with a pink umbrella bobbing inside a hollowed-out coconut shell to drink sat at a beach bar, if that's what her client preferred. Deedee could arrange it all, the perfect escape. "Oh, sorry, wrong number. I was looking for the nail salon." Deedee's heart sank as the perky-sounding young woman ended the call. Since the council had installed the parking meters in the street outside her travel agency, she had seen a sharp downturn in business. There just wasn't the footfall to see the special offer boards she had hanging in the window. Not like in the good old days when she had first opened the business in the 80s and would have customers queuing at the revolving door to take a seat and thumb through a stack of glossy brochures with her to work out the details of their dream holiday. Pushing up the sleeves of her exquisitely cut Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress in blush pink with a long, oversized sash at the side that she had bought on holiday in America many years ago, she smiled at the memory it evoked. Her fingertips lingering as she treasured the moment over again. Duran Duran's Rio playing in the air as her third husband, Joe, had untied the sash, slipped the dress from her body, and made slow, sensual love to her on the secluded, sun-soaked deck of the beachfront holiday home in Malibu. Deeply in love, and most definitely feeling third-time lucky after the 2 miserable marriages that had gone before, he had been the love of her life. She pressed the tip of an index finger to her lips before touching Joe's handsome face in the photo of them together on her desk. His arm around her shoulders, and her head resting into the side of his solid chest. Her love for him radiating from her contented face. If she closed her eyes, she could still smell the scent of his citrus cologne and feel the fabric of the soft cotton shirt he was wearing on that day. She had kept the shirt, and sometimes took it out to comfort herself with, usually at night when she couldn't sleep, or on a special anniversary day when she missed him the most. She would let her fingers linger on the buttons as she chatted to him and murmured the now familiar words. Wish you were here. But he wasn't here. Not anymore. Joe died 4 years ago and she had been devastated. Her heart had cracked in two, and sometimes it still hurt more than ever. Sighing, Deedee took out the little compact mirror she kept in her desk drawer and studied her 69-year-old face, thinking how on earth did that happen? It took her by surprise every time she caught a glance of herself in a mirror or a shop window, because her face didn't match how young she felt inside. But enough of all that. No regrets was Deedee's philosophy on life. She certainly wasn't going to let a few laughter lines spoil her day. Why would she, when she'd had an absolute riot of a life, making all the marvellous memories in the first place? Plus, to be fair, she considered herself extremely lucky to still feel like a 30-something in spirit. Sure, things had changed on the physical side. She no longer had the stamina to go partying all night long on yachts around the coast of Ibiza, or in the beach clubs and casinos in the south of France, like she used to back in her younger years. Not that she could afford to do that these days in any case, with such a significantly reduced income, but she watched her diet, kept herself supple with daily yoga sessions, and went for regular health checkups, especially after finding the lump in her left breast, which thankfully had been a benign cyst. Zhuzhing her silvery blonde hair into place, Deedee smoothed a few drops of serum through the ends, and then livened it up with sea salt spray to give it that breezy, glamorous red carpet look that Meryl Streep did so well. Then, spritzing on her favourite fracas perfume, she hummed to herself, wondering if she might actually book some holidays in today, or if it would be like all the other days this month and the one before it, so quiet she could hear the hiss of the coffee machine in the accountant's office next door. Business had been slow for far too long now, and she knew that almost everyone booked holidays themselves online these days. But she loved working. The interaction with happy people full of anticipation at the prospect of escaping their normal, everyday lives and experiencing the exciting itineraries she'd put together for them. And so she saw no reason to slow down just because her business was. Even if her big 70 birthday, she couldn't bring herself to think it, let alone actually say it out loud, was at the end of next month. What she did need to do, though, was decide on how she was going to mark the occasion, to trick herself into feeling excited instead of daunted. And a plan was already beginning to bubble, with her thoughts drifting to one of her favourite places on earth, New York, where she had felt closest to Joe, and where they had enjoyed many exciting trips together. Shopping, dining, meeting up with friends, even a memorable special anniversary or two. Where the energy was frenetic and vibrant, and she always felt so very much more alive, so maybe this would give her the boost she desperately needed right now. And didn't everything always feel better when there was something to look forward to? She imagined strolling through Central Park, seeing the breathtaking sunset from the top of the Rock, aka the Rockefeller Center, twirling delicious clam linguine onto a fork in a favourite trattoria in Little Italy, walking the High Line, crossing the Brooklyn Bridge to see the cherry blossom which would be blooming beautifully at this time of year in the Botanic Garden, wandering around the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and of course, Times Square, where she loved just soaking up the pure essence of New York, with its blaze of digital billboards and multitudes of tourists marvelling over the high-octane atmosphere. Yes, it really did feel like you were in the centre of the world there. The Big Apple. And the perfect location to lift her mood and hopefully get her enthused about moving into her 7th decade. Plus, it was the home of her old flame and dear friend, Yanis, a well-renowned fashion photographer from her modelling days. Deedee had last seen him on the magical Greek island of Kalosiros when she had been on holiday and partied on his boat with her wonderful friends Gina and Rosie. Of course, they messaged each other now and again, but it wasn't the same as sitting on the deck of his boat. with her head resting on his shoulder as they put the world to rights and watched the pastel-pink Greek sun set over the Mediterranean Sea, or sipping Manhattan cocktails together, actually in Manhattan, then jumping into an iconic yellow taxi to take them for a delicious dinner at Athena, his family's Greek restaurant in Astoria, Queens. The meal would no doubt turn into a whole night of exuberance, feasting on kleftiko and koftas, while his family argued, loudly no doubt, as they typically did, before they all hugged it out and danced till dawn. Yes, she could really do with some of that big fat Greek-American passionate family energy right now to buoy her mood and carry her into her 7th decade with joy and panache. Perhaps an enormous triple-tiered honey and pistachio baklava birthday cake too. But then she remembered the reality of her financial situation. With business so slow, and having used up all her savings on the specialist care that Joe had needed, Deedee wasn't entirely sure if she could actually afford to take a trip to New York. Picking up her phone, she tapped through to her online banking app, and her concern was quickly confirmed. Her heart sank, and amplified her fear of getting old even further. She really needed to find a way to make the travel agency work, or she could quite possibly end up homeless too, if she couldn't pay the loan she had secured on her house to keep the business afloat when she had brought in a manager and took time off to be with Joe towards the end of his life. She put her phone down and went into the little kitchenette area at the back of the shop to make a cup of tea and think things through. She could easily find the cheapest flights. In fact, she might even have enough air miles left to cover them. And Lois, her travel agent friend in New York, owed her a favour, so maybe she could help with finding a reasonably priced place to stay. Deedee finished stirring milk into her tea and heard her mobile ringing, so went back to her desk, but it rang off just as she picked up the phone. Looking at the screen, she smiled on realising the missed call had come from a number with a USA country code, and took it as a sign, fate, perhaps, telling her to try to find a way to take the trip. She contemplated calling the number back, but the phone on her desk rang, so she went for that instead, just in case it was someone wanting to book a holiday after all. The mystery caller could wait, or leave a message if it was important. After dealing with the call, an elderly man wanting help to book a coach ticket, which Deedee was happy to assist him with, she tidied the mirror, hair products and perfume away into the drawer, and put her plan into action. She found some potential flights first, and then called Lois, who, by chance, was going to Hawaii for her son's wedding for a week at the end of next month, and so offered her own top-floor apartment in the West Village for Deedee to stay in while she was away. Deedee then sent a message to Yanis. He replied right away.
Yanis. Yes, of course you can have your big birthday party in the taverna, as long as I am invited. Great minds think alike, because if you hadn't suggested it, I would have. Already looking forward to celebrating with you. Kiss, kiss.
Touched by his kindness, she thanked him and added several kisses, and then scrolled through to find the aptly named Come Away With Me WhatsApp group she shared with Gina and Rosie. She smiled, as she always did, at the gorgeous profile picture of the three of them skinny dipping in the electric blue Greek island sea. It had been a wonderful evening, swimming as the sun had set over the shimmering waves, giving the water a magical mix of glittering, pearlescent colours. Deedee. Fancy coming to my big fat Greek birthday party in New York next month? She added a few appropriate emojis of the Statue of Liberty, the USA flag, a Greek flag, a collection of shopping bags, shoes, lots of cocktail glasses, a fizzing cone of celebration, a birthday cake, and the fingers crossed one too. And then waited, because she could see that Gina was already typing a reply. Ooh, yes, love to. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Quickly followed by Rosie. Abso-flaming-lutely. Feeling instantly lifted, Deedee replied with 6 heart emojis, and then after lots of toing and froing to go through all the details, duration, The full 7 days in the end, because any less would feel like a mini break, and the three women definitely wanted the full NYC experience. They agreed the times and the holiday theme. Famous movie locations in New York, with some Sex and the City party clothes glam, of course. They had all seen the traditional sights before, so wanted something a bit different this time. Deedee made a mental note to call her airline contact to secure the flights today. A New York escape with wonderful friends was the perfect opportunity for Deedee to spend some time in the city that never sleeps, feeling fabulous, flirtatious, and most of all, figuring out what she really wanted for the next chapter of her life. Chapter 2. After clearing customs and retrieving her luggage in record time, Deedee scooped her caramel-coloured pashmina around her shoulders and made her way to the arrivals hall, scanning the crowd to find Gina and Rosie, who were scheduled to land an hour or so before her. They had all taken separate flights, with each of them coming from different locations. "There she is, Deedee, over here!" Deedee turned to see her two friends grinning like a pair of Cheshire cats before bursting into a rousing rendition of Happy Birthday to You, complete with 3 gold heart-shaped helium balloons on lengths of ribbon and a handwritten sign saying, 70 Sexy Extra AF, in big swirly gold letters on a black background. "Ladies, it's wonderful to see you both, but—" Deedee paused to lower her voice on seeing people in the crowd stopping and staring, some smiling and others tutting, before leaning in close to Rosie and Gina and adding, "Please put the placard down. I don't want the whole of New York to know that I'm officially old." She rolled her eyes in mock shock, but laughed too, as she supposed she didn't really mind her friends giving her such a warm welcome. Although she was pretty certain she had let enough people think she was 10 years younger than her real age to warrant a high chance of at least one of them being here and discovering her audacious lie. "And where did you get these balloons from? Surely you didn't smuggle them on the flight." "I called ahead and arranged to have them delivered right here to the arrivals hall." Rosie beamed. "This is New York. You can have absolutely anything delivered to anywhere." "I should have known." Deedee shook her head, "But you know my birthday isn't actually until next week, and so I fully intend on savouring every last second of my 60s. She smiled and sighed simultaneously, making her stack of solid gold Cartier love bangles jangle together as she lifted her arms and pulled Gina in for a huge hug. She then turned to Rosie, who hurriedly dumped the sign in a nearby paper recycling bin before flinging her arms around Deedee and near-winding her in sheer exuberance. "Sorry about the sign. I got carried away," Rosie groaned, letting Deedee go. She pulled a face and shook her head in apology, making her blonde curls bounce around her pretty face. "And I expect nothing less," Deedee grinned, instantly forgiving her friend. But eyeing up Rosie's supersized tote bag slung over a shoulder that looked suspiciously similar to the work bag full of her event planning essentials that she had carried around everywhere when they were last on holiday together. Admittedly, Rosie, a wedding and events planner, had been on the Greek island last summer to find the perfect wedding location for one of her clients. But still, Deedee was wary, as Rosie had then got carried away with an impromptu passion project for a reluctant Gina on that same holiday. Deedee had ended up having to calm Rosie down several times before it all got out of hand. "Rosie, darling, I hope you haven't got one of your big notepads and fluffy pens in there, intending on planning my birthday to within an inch of its life." Deedee tilted her head to one side in scrutiny as she pointed to the tote bag, having seen firsthand on that previous holiday just how enthusiastic Rosie could be when she became laser-focused on organising something. And the last thing Deedee wanted was a big fuss, a supersized extravaganza of a party which could very well become a reality if Rosie took over. Yes, Deedee loved a party, and had been the life and soul of many in her time, but this was different. She just wasn't feeling it now. A public display of hitting the big 7-0 with quite possibly a big bunch of people she'd barely met before was just not the vibe, as she had heard a couple of Gen Z passengers saying on repeat about almost everything on the flight over here. During the flight, she had also had far too much time to contemplate the truth of what a big 70th birthday celebration actually meant. Back home in London last month, she'd thought a big party in New York seemed like a fabulous idea. But the reality of being the focus of attention at her own 70th was now making her panic at the prospect. It conjured up images of balloon arches and pastel-coloured cupcakes with various pot plant gifts, or, God forbid, a lily-of-the-valley bath pack, like the one her neighbour was given on her 70th, and then secretly donated to the local care home raffle fundraiser because the scent of it made her feel properly old. And Deedee supposed part of her change of heart too was because she had always envisaged celebrating this milestone birthday with Joe by her side. She remembered how they had talked about it before he became ill, of splurging on an extravagant trip of some kind, a Caribbean cruise, or renting a villa somewhere hot and vibrant, like Ibiza or Mykonos, creating a mini music festival and inviting all their friends to join them. But without Joe here, it really did take the shine off things. Deedee couldn't back out now, though, not when she was already here in New York, and Yanis's sister, Cleo, the head chef at Athena, already had arrangements underway. She had created menu options and started preparing the birthday party food, plus Rosie and Gina were counting on her too. Deedee hated letting people down. She didn't think it was fair when her friends had taken time out of their busy lives to come all this way to celebrate with her, hoping to have a good time. So she was going to make sure that's exactly what they all had over the next week. Then a low-key party with cocktails and dancing, with plenty of sharing platters on a beautifully curated tablescape, with the hot Greek waiters milling around to admire and distract Deedee from the absence of the love of her life for a while, was much more her style. Something elegant and sophisticated, with absolutely no mention of it being her 70th birthday, would suit her just fine. And definitely no giant guest list, just an intimate soirée to bring her close friends together to have a wonderful time and celebrate life with plenty of fun and joie de vivre. Yes, she felt better already, as she warmed to the idea again of celebrating her big birthday without actually having a big party. As long as she could steer Rosie away from turning it into a pastel-coloured, Instagram-styled extravaganza. Well, I might have made a few notes, just some ideas to really give your birthday party a bit of a glow-up. Rosie looked sheepish as she moved a protective hand across the top of her tote. Just a list of party suppliers here in New York for essentials, like balloon arches, cupcakes, that sort of thing. I'm sure if we place an order right away, we could get everything delivered in time. I did also wonder about placing an order before we got here, but without knowing the suppliers, I didn't want to take a chance on things not being up to scratch. Deedee inhaled sharply. Yes, and I was thinking maybe a photo booth with themed hats and accessories, wigs and wacky sunglasses, that kind of thing for people to dress up in. And how do you feel about a 50s theme? A nod to when you were born in 1954, or was it 1955? I could use the calculator on my phone to work it out. Oh, darling, absolutely no need for all that. Deedee jumped in quickly, not wanting to be reminded that it was the 50s when she was born, aka the properly olden days, as she had overheard a young girl say to her granny when they had come into the travel agents a little while ago to book a celebratory mini-break to Milan. With this thought in mind, Deedee gently placed a steadying hand on Rosie's arm to stop her rummaging inside her tote to find her phone, presumably. This is supposed to be a holiday for all of us, Deedee added, shaking her head as she tried to quell the swirl of panic that was further building inside her now. Rosie, I know it's your job to plan weddings and events, but I didn't invite you to join me here just so you could organise my birthday party. Ah, I know that, Deedee, but it would be my absolute pleasure. Think of it as my gift to you. Rosie bobbed from one foot to the other. It is so very exciting. A big birthday in New York, and the three of us back together again. We are going to have such a fantastic time. I know we've all been to the traditional New York landmarks before and agreed on a movie location theme, so I've put together an itinerary listing out as many of the famous movie locations I can think of and popped it in our WhatsApp group for us to peruse at our leisure over a cocktail or three, if you would both like to. She pressed her palms together in glee. I thought we could go through the list and put it in a priority order, you know, which one on which day, so we are organised.
A short silence followed.
Well, cocktails always sound good to me, thank you, Rosie, Deedee said kindly, feeling overwhelmed already by Rosie's enthusiasm, but not wanting to hurt her friend's feelings. She knew Rosie meant well, and a few cocktails did actually sound like a good idea, and, to be fair, Rosie had no idea how Deedee was truly feeling about turning 70, so she couldn't really complain about her friend wanting to go all out to make it special. But also, she wasn't sure she wanted her time here to be as mapped out as Rosie was suggesting. Deedee didn't really know why she hadn't confided in Gina and Rosie about how very much she missed Joe. Maybe she should. But then it suddenly dawned on her that if she talked about him, then she might cry and end up not being able to stop, and it would get messy with a high chance of full-on ugly tears, and she had always been incredibly stoic. She supposed that's what happened when you were born in the properly olden days and brought up with old-fashioned ideas about the importance of keeping one's emotions in check at all times. Plus, she was meant to be the wise one in their friendship trio, the strong one who supported the others, so it would hardly do to change all that now, to upset the equilibrium by oversharing. And showing vulnerability terrified her. It made her feel weak, which was close to frail, and that was definitely in the ballpark of old lady territory. But would you mind if we do the cocktails another day? She added. I'm in desperate need of a shower after all the travelling, and some sleep, too. The long flight and the jet lag has really hit me this time, and my body clock thinks it's already the middle of the night. Sure, Rosie beamed. Something nice to look forward to. I'll be back on form tomorrow, I promise, Deedee said, suddenly conscious that she was quite a bit older than Gina and Rosie, who had both recently turned only 50 and didn't look at all tired. And let's discuss your ideas for the party then, too. Cleo and the staff at Athena have already got the menu covered in any case, so you can relax and just enjoy being here, she mentioned diplomatically, wishing she could just be straight with them and say how the shine of being here had suddenly dulled with Joe's absence, that she was missing him, that her heart yearned to see him, to touch him one more time, that she felt sad, lonely sometimes, even when surrounded by her friends, and, dare she say it, angry too. Yes, there had been moments since Joe died when she felt absolutely furious with him for leaving her prematurely, which she knew was utterly irrational. So she would then feel instantly racked with guilt for having such mean thoughts. Because her darling Joe, the only man she had truly loved on every level, hadn't died on purpose. Of course he hadn't. And then the whole cycle of grief and confusing thoughts would start all over again, until she literally had to yell out loud to herself, "Stop thinking!" and find something physical to do to distract herself with, before she drove herself completely mad with her muddled mind. Yes, I'm sure they are very used to hosting parties in the restaurant, Gina said, catching Deedee's eye, and it will be wonderful for us all to relax and just enjoy each other's company. Go with the flow and see what we fancy doing each day, rather than have it all mapped out for us. Plus, you don't want to be working while you're here on holiday, Rosie. You need a break too. And cocktails sound good to me. A great way to start our holiday, she added, smiling. Although what I'd really like to do first is eat a big slice of authentic American pizza. Or, even better, a hot dog from one of those stands on a street corner. I've only ever seen them in films and always thought they looked like a fun thing to try. Well, I'm sure we can get you pizza or a hot dog, or both if you like, Deedee nodded, relieved to be talking about something else now. Oh, yes. Try authentic American pizza and hot dogs. I will add it all to the itinerary. Rosie beamed, seemingly back in her element as she whipped out her phone and started tapping away on the screen. In fact, hang on a minute. Rosie switched her tapping finger to feverish scroll mode and then suddenly announced, "You've got mail. The movie. Yes, right here, I've made a note. Hot dog place where Kathleen and Joe go in You've Got Mail and is also visible in the background of a scene in Die Hard with a Vengeance." Rosie turned her phone to show the screen to Deedee and Gina. "Perfect for your hot dog fix, Gina, and it's a famous movie location too, so ties in nicely with our holiday theme. It's at 2090 Broadway and 72nd Street. Deedee and Gina laughed and shook their heads. "Oh, yes, I love that film. Thanks, Rosie," Gina said. "And how are you, Gina?" Deedee turned to take a good look at her rather lovely friend, loving how relaxed and glowing she appeared. Her curly hair was longer and even more sun-kissed than the last time they were together for Gina's 50th birthday party the previous summer. The hot pink trousers with matching oversized jacket that Gina was wearing, with a fitted white vest, beautifully showed off her natural golden tan. "I'm so happy," Gina beamed, "and it's a dream, a real bucket list moment, to be back here in actual New York. The last time I came here was on a school trip in my early teens." "Oh, I'm really pleased for you, darling, and you look fabulous, all golden and glowing. Now, shall we find my driver?" Deedee suggested, and the three women made their way through the crowds to the exit doors. "You have a driver?" Rosie gasped as she caught up with Deedee. "I sure do, although it sounds far more bougie than it actually is. Anthony is a friend and we've known each other for decades. We first met when I was here in New York for a wild weekend in my 20s, and we hit it off right away, became firm friends, and then I was his best woman when he married his gorgeous husband, Carl. Anthony was then my queen of honor when I married Joe." "Cool. I can't wait to meet him," Gina said, pushing a luggage trolley alongside Deedee. "I should warn you, he pretends to be perpetually outraged about something or another most of the time, but underneath it all, he's an absolute sweetheart," Deedee continued. "Anthony used to be a professional performer. He sang and danced in many Broadway musicals back in the day, and we would go clubbing together in the 70s, dancing to disco music at Studio 54 after the shows." "Wow, that sounds amazing." "It was," Deedee said, feeling a sudden wave of nostalgia for those gloriously hedonistic days. "Anyway, it was a long time ago. Anthony's always loved driving and showing off his beloved New York, so is now living his dream as a chauffeur, and we help each other out. I send all my clients who are traveling to New York to him for a sightseeing tour, and he looks after me when I'm here. A perk of being a travel agent. Come on, he'll be waiting. You're going to love him. Trust me, he can recommend all the best places to go and seems to be on first-name terms with most of the restaurant maitre d's, so can often find lunch and dinner reservations at short notice. Plus, Carl is a fashion stylist, so I've arranged for the three of us to visit his studio in Manhattan's meatpacking district to have a styling session with him tomorrow to kickstart our holiday off and help us all find something fabulous to wear to my birthday soiree." "Oh, that sounds amazing. Thanks, Deedee."